Joey E. All right, we just got back from seeing Steep. Ubisoft's sort of forgotten about extreme sports game. They just announced it at E3 this past year, about 6 months ago, and we haven't actually heard much about it since then, but we finally got a chance to go play actually at the GoPro offices of all places. Had about 3 or 4 hours of hands-on time and got to see a lot of the open world stuff. I'm kind of excited about this one, if for no other reason than we haven't really had a great extreme sports game in a while. Skate 3 is the last one that comes to mind, and that came out 6 years ago, and this year has been dominated by shooters, so I'm kind of excited just to have a game where you can jump off of mountains and do tricks and stuff. That said, we did see a lot of the game yesterday, but let's start with the positives. Coming away from yesterday's demo, what did you like about it? What did you like about what we got to play?
Okay, so coming out of the demo, I think the biggest takeaway that I was able to get from it was the sense of scale for the game. So the game is billed as an open world, extreme sports type game where you can snowboard, you can ski, you can,
wingsuit.
Yeah, wingsuit, you can ride
That's
a parachute down the mountain.
Yeah, paragliding.
And what it does really well, I think, is that it gives the player a sense of, a really good sense of scale. The game is a recreation of the Alps, actually, and so when you're riding down those mountains, it really does feel like you're this tiny human with these gigantic mountains around you. It just makes you feel small.
Yeah,
I think
that sense of scale and the overwhelming sense of you're in part of this bigger world, and there is so much to go and explore. I absolutely agree. I love the open world aspect of it. In a weird way, it reminded me of wandering around in Skyrim and just seeing a little icon on your minimap and going, oh, I wonder what that is, and just wanting to make it over the next hill to see what the next thing was. This game has that same thing where, hey, there might be a half pipe over the next hill, or hey, you might find a new glacier run or something. I love that sense of discovery, and I like that you can play the game just by kind of exploring the world and doing whatever you want. You don't necessarily have to go from event to event. You can kind of just have fun in this big giant world.
Yeah.
Any other big points?
I will say, going back to the wingsuits,
yeah.
Out of all of the sports that they have in that game, I think that's most exhilarating, probably the most exciting thing I've played in a long time.
Yeah.
So one of the races that they have is that you have to fly on a wingsuit down the mountain, and you score points by being as close to the ground as possible.
Right,
so
and ducking between narrow openings and stuff,
yeah,
risky maneuvers.
So that entire time you're trying to get as close to the ground, trying to almost skid across the snow sometimes, and dodging the cliffs and hopefully making it down in one piece.
Yeah, that was super fun. I agree, actually. I think that the wingsuit stuff was my favorite as well. Great sense of speed, great sense of risk. It's really cool just soaring through these narrow openings and being able to compete with your friends. I mean, that I think was the most direct competition that we saw. You can kind of link up with people and just kind of experience the world with them, but you're not necessarily competing directly. That was the closest we really came.
Yeah.
I will say that some of the other sports didn't grab me quite as much. None of them were bad, but were certainly shakier. I will say that paragliding stuff was kind of boring, especially compared to the wingsuit. I mean, the wingsuit, you're speeding down the mountain. Mm-hmm. Paragliding, you're kind of just floating and maneuvering, and I just didn't really get it.
It's super clunky, I think.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, that's probably, since it is the slowest, you also have probably the least control out of all of them. And the game doesn't do a very good job at telling you exactly how to control it in the first place.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times when I was controlling it, I was kind of just rocking back and forth. I saw people in the trailers do flips with the parachute, and I couldn't even figure out how to do that for the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, actually, a lot of my biggest problems with the demo that we played had very little to do with gameplay and much more to do with presentation. I really hated the menu system or even just navigating the world map. Every menu, for whatever reason, you have a little cursor that you just painfully slowly guide around the screen to select stuff. It's really cumbersome and unintuitive, and every menu uses that same system. It's very obnoxious, and it's most cumbersome when it comes to the world map. You have to look for little icons on this giant map, and you don't even necessarily know what they mean, and you're trying to zoom in on them. And I actually asked the developers, is there a list? Is there a list of events? If I just want to jump into a trick event on a snowboard, can I just jump to that immediately? And they're like, oh, that's not in the game. And hey, maybe they'll add that, but currently just trying to navigate how things work, it's kind of a pain in the ass. And actually, I had the same experience with the replay system. I really like that they've actually focused on creating and sharing videos with your friends. Skate did the same thing, and I think that works really well for this type of game that's based on finding lines and doing tricks and things like that. So I love that that's part of the game, but there are certain things about the way the replay system works that I didn't really connect with. You can't hide the UI. You don't have a timeline bar that you can scrub through. You just have to watch and rewind and fast forward in real time, on the screen in front of you. It could have been a little bit more robust, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problems come from like just very small things. Like the game, I feel overall lacks a little bit of polish.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the menu and UI.
Well, they still have a month before the official release. The game is due out on December 2nd, so that's not a lot of time to polish things up, but it's possible they'll be able to smooth some of these rough edges. I mean, again, a lot of the things that we're talking about aren't major overhaul changes, right? It's stuff like the UI, things that are relatively easy to fix. So hopefully they'll take this next month to make some of those changes and some of those additions. Prior to release, though, there is an open beta November 18th to the 21st, and an early access beta November 10th to the 14th if you want to go to Ubisoft and sign up. So people will have a chance to play the game before its full release a month from now. So hey, we'll see how that pans out. Hopefully they'll get some information from those betas. Hopefully they'll make some of the changes that we've talked about, and when the game actually comes out on December 2nd, it'll just be awesome. So Joey, any closing thoughts?
I'm really hoping it'll be awesome. You know, it's been a long time, like you said, since we've had a proper snowboarding or even extreme sports game.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. So
yeah, I'm hoping, man. I'm primed to love this game. I just hope it can deliver. So, for more on Steep and coverage of the beta and everything extreme sports, stay tuned to GameSpot.com.